All righty. Good evening. Good evening. Okay. Let me see my guests. Let me see my guests. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening to everyone that is joining us right now. Ink to Ink, Incarceration to Incorporation. I am excited. I'm excited to know that we have some guys on tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on from our adults to our youth. And what are we doing? What is incarceration to incorporation? Well, number one, what we're doing is we are changing the narrative. So often we hear that when men and women come from prison, that they automatically return right back. But that narrative is false. And that's what we're doing. We have a platform to share with the world that there are men and women who are coming home and doing a marvelous or an awesome job, whether it's business, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's their relationships, they are succeeding. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guest. I just want to make sure that all of your devices are off so that there is no sound in the background, because we want everyone to hear us clear on what we're talking about today. Ink to Ink. So without further ado, let's see. I got Fred on with me. Fred, introduce yourself right now.
Hey everybody, I hope everybody is well and getting ready for the Christmas holiday. My name is Fred Green. A lot of people from Savannah community know me as Tory T. I'm the founder of Faces and Voices of Reintegration, which we highlight the successes of those who are reintegrated back in society. And as Julia said, oftentimes people focus on recidivism or from a retributive justice approach instead of a restorative justice approach, which will focus on the successes of individuals that's returning from incarceration. And many are the faces and the voices of those who have successfully reintegrated.
Awesome, awesome. And we got another brother that's riding with us. Brad, tell us who you are.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I am Charlton Bradford Brad Jefferson. I am a military veteran. I did 22 years in the Army. Retired about 5 years ago in Savannah. I love Savannah. I'm part of the 100 Black Men in Savannah, where we mentor the youth in Savannah. And I also work at St. Joseph Candler African American Health Information and Resource Center, where the focus is health information. We provide and we promote health education for the community. My specialty with St. Joseph and the center is youth health. So I'm focused on the youth when it comes to health and nutrition. And I'm also working with the 100 Black Men in Savannah when it comes to mentoring the youth. Now, tonight on this platform, I am representing myself as an individual. However, I will have these resources available, and I will take from this so that we can build, because I believe we all here in Savannah, whether you're born and raised from Savannah, whether you migrated to Savannah, whether you landed in Savannah, whether you just went to Savannah one weekend and fell in love with it, you're here now. And the thing is, you want to see everybody in Savannah succeed, especially our youth, because our youth is our greatest asset.
I agree. Our youth is our greatest asset. So, as I've stated, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about our young people, but we're also going to talk about returning citizens. And so, before I start, I want to give a shout out to Julius Hall. He is the brainchild of what we're talking about tonight. Julius Hall, All Things Relevant Media, who has given us this platform. Also, I want to give a shout out to AB. AB has been the one that's thought up this opportunity. What can we do? Incarceration to incorporation. And so he said, listen, we are different. We are changing the narrative. And so that is what this platform is for tonight. So let me tell you a little bit about who I am. My name is Julius Campbell, and I have been working with systems impacted young people, but also I am a returning citizen. I did a substantial amount of time in prison, but when the doors were open for me, I was able to go right and do what I've been preparing for the past 26 years, and that is to help men and women who were incarcerated, whether it was 20 years ago or 20 days ago, and also to allow that bridge to come towards those young people, because I believe that he who refuses to learn from history is forced to repeat its mistakes. So that's why we share our story, our lived experiences with young people. So without further ado, I want you first, Fred. Tell us what you got going on and what you've been involved in here lately.
Well, Julius, thank you again, Julius. And lately, as a clinical social worker, and I am also a formerly incarcerated individual. Spent the majority of my young adult life in and out of prison, and so now I am a shining example of successful reintegration. Um, and so right now, currently, what we are doing as a clinical social worker, I'm also working with what's called a Pathway Homes 2 initiative, which is through Savannah Technical College. The Pathway Homes 2 initiative is a outstanding program that what we're doing is we're going to do some in-reach with people that are currently incarcerated who may have a TPM. And for those who don't know what a TPM is, a tentative parole month, and they're probably close to being 6 months within being released. Once they are identified by the correctional system or the correctional institution that they're currently serving time in, they will have an opportunity to receive industry level certifications in logistics, manufacturing, and welding while in the institution. Once they get out the institution, they will be able to be followed by case managers and coordinators, which I am one of them, and they will be able to have wraparound services. We will connect them to housing. We will connect them to mental health, medical services. We will follow up with them, make sure that they're doing well, give them the support that they need post-incarceration, so that we want to take away the excuse. And also, as you talk about, Julius, change the narrative of the recidivism type of perspective. With the right type of support, we know that individuals post-incarceration can fare out better later in life after incarceration. So that's kind of what Savannah Technical College is doing. I gave kudos to my director, Carl Betterson, and Dr. Brett. Dr. Brett, that's out there at Savannah Tech, who helped write the grant for this. And so I think that I think it's going to be an outstanding program. And it's the first one in existence, Julius. I mean, when I came home in 2000, there was nothing like this to support people after incarceration. So I think it's going to be an outstanding program. We boots on the ground, we strapped up, we ready to go and make sure that people are successful.
What can we do? What do you need?
Well, currently right now, what we are doing is we are reaching out to all our local partners, stakeholders in the community, making sure they're on board, community-based organization. Of course, you know, OAA is going to be vital to this, to provide a support system for individuals, because they will get to see individuals who are just like them, formerly incarcerated, and that they're doing well, and it will give them that installation of hope. So I think platforms like this will be important. So if there's any stakeholders out there, anybody that have resources that's willing to help this program, this initiative, then we need you to jump on board with it. Because it's a tremendous opportunity. And if you know anybody that's in the chain gang, curse, I'm gonna use the chain gang. If you know anybody that's currently in chain gang that's 6 months out, if they're in Coastal State Prison, if they're Effingham Prison, we're reaching out to Liberty County Jail. We're reaching out to Bryan County Jail as well. If they have 6 months left on their sentence, they need to get with their counselor and they need to sign up for the Pathways Home to Initiative so that they can get these industry level certifications that's paying good money. You know, Julius, a person come out and they got a wellness certificate, man, they might make $17, $18, $19, $20 an hour. They could make a livable wage so that you don't have to go out there and hustle or say, I got to put the pistol in my hand or whatever you thought that you might have to do. And there are hiring agencies. There are corporations that's on board that's willing to hire justice involved, justice impacted people post incarceration.
Wow, I see that. Now we're going to go deeper into that, but before we go deeper into that, because I want Brad, you come in, tell us, what you're doing, what you're involved in as well, and I'll tell you why I want all of this to come out.
Well, I will tell you this, Mr. Campbell, and let me thank you again for allowing me to appear on this platform. But when you talk about the youth and you talk about 2021, there is no way that you can talk to the youth without getting deep into the justice system, without getting into the legal parameters that's put in place, without getting into the relationships between the at-home officer and the neighborhood officer, the stay-home mom, and the latchkey kid. That's something we definitely have to address. And my thing is, I always tell the youth, the best way to beat the system is to not get in the system. But I always realize that's easier said than done. But the focus now is on mentoring, trying to let the youth know that, hey, this is definitely not the path that you want to go with. And Mr. Green, I'm so looking forward to making sure that we make some connections so that, the way we mentor within the 100 Black Men of Savannah, because of the pandemic, we've been doing a lot of stuff over Zoom. So it would be awesome to have a Zoom meeting and have you sit in and have you talk to some of the youth about your past, about what you did, where you've been, what you've seen, and give them an inside glimpse of what it's really like. Because I've ran into a lot of the youth who kind of glorify being in the streets, glorify carrying guns, glorify being locked up. And trust and believe, I tell them all the time, I had to spend a weekend in jail. And that weekend I almost lost my mind. So when you're talking about 5-6 years, that's a lot of time. I tell people all the time, can you stay in your house with all the amenities you have, computers, video games, internet? Can you stay in your house 23 hours a day and just go out for 1 hour? You do that. You might do that for about 4 days without going crazy. But my thing is, Mr. Campbell, we looking to mentor on one side with the 100 Black Men of Savannah to make sure that the kids avoid the mistakes we did. Now, I always say, regardless of what happened to us in the past, all of us right now, we kind of turned out pretty good. We got our feet on solid ground. We focused. We got an idea of what we want to do. It took us a few bumps and a few trip ups, but we made it. Now, let's rewind and catch some of these youth at our age or younger than us when we started making those mistakes, and imagine how much better they can be. Imagine how much more they can accomplish if they can avoid that. And I always say, you show me a child that doesn't need a mentor, and I'll show you somebody that's lying, plain and simple. And then on the other side of it, with the hospital and with the center, the nutrition is a big thing. We have to start telling kids right now, this is the time in your life where you need to get serious about your health. Because if you notice or not, one thing I learned when I started working there, it's a great tracking system for kids when they are first born, when they're toddlers, and when they go to elementary school. But something about middle and high school, they lose track of these kids. They don't go to the hospital as often. They don't go get checked out. And the next time you see them as an adult. And now you're trying to figure out, okay, in that time frame, there are certain things you should have had, especially when it comes to us men. We are the hardest head people when it comes to going to the hospital and getting checked out. And I tell, if my wife is upstairs, but if she came downstairs, she would tell you right now, it takes everything for me to go to the hospital, because I think I can tough it out. I think it's not that serious, but at the same time, I will tell you this: I am a cancer survivor, and I'm a cancer survivor because they caught it early. And that's my whole thing, Mr. Campbell. We want to promote and provide health education as well as mentoring. And I think this is just a great platform for it. And I can't wait I'm so excited about the things that's going to come in the future with all of us.
Well, now first of all, I want to say, what's up, Rod? Rod is watching us. And also, how you doing, Pastor Syed? She's also watching us as well. And we're opening the doors for others to come in, Susan and others as well. But I want to start peppering both of you with some questions. And first, I want to understand from the 100 Black Men perspective, Brad, why is this A, necessary? And B, how can returning citizens be involved?
Well, and I'll be honest and I'll be frank, because there are some questions that the mentees have that none of us are in a position to answer. And one thing that we do preach to the mentees is we will not lie to you. If we don't know, we will find somebody that knows. And that's what we want to do. We want to cover every aspect so that we can say, don't take my word for it. Listen to Mr. Green. Mr. Green been locked up. Mr. Green sat behind that wall. Mr. Green had to do that roll call. So ask him the question and let him look you in the face and tell you he's true. And one thing about it is, they know if we bring somebody and we put them in front of them, either we believe that person to be true or that person is true.
All right. Fred, now this is an opportunity for returning citizens because we know who's following behind us. You've heard about the school to prison pipeline. I want you, Fred, to speak to that, the school to prison pipeline, and then weave it on to why it is important for those returning citizens also to come to the table.
Well, it's very important. It's vital. Brad talked specifically about mentors. Having sound mentors is no trivial matter. We have to have mentors, not only young people, but adults. The adults that's in prominent or affluent positions in the Savannah area, they need to hear this podcast and they need to reach out to us and pass on the knowledge, the insight, the wisdom that they have, so we can get into places to affect policy change. Yes. To be able to develop policies and stuff that will help us in laws and legislature that will help. And when you talk about the school to prison pipeline, the educational resources that's needed so that young people can fare out better later. There's no reason. I was having a conversation today with one of our administrative bodies at Savannah Tech. And I said, there's no reason why parents should be still lying about I use somebody else's address to put my child in a proper school. We should be past that point. I did that 20 years ago. So if schools are still lacking the necessary resources for children in socioeconomically disadvantaged areas, then that's a problem. If we still got schools that only have one teacher to one student ratio, where some schools have three teachers to one student ratio, then that's a problem. If we got schools in socioeconomically disadvantaged areas that still only got one computer lab with 2 or 3 computers and others that have 15 computers, then that's a problem. And instead of using somebody else's address, we need to make sure that these schools got the right resources. And so not only that, nutrition is an important part. We got to get the kids the children off the sugary products. Sometimes in certain neighborhoods are still food deserts. So if they don't have proper nutrition, to speak to Brad's point, then guess what? How can they learn? Communities that still that have grocery stores like the West Savannah area, somewhat in the Garden State area, these children are going to school without proper nutrition, without eating properly. So how can they learn? So that school to prison pipeline, and I think also that the schools need to go back to high school graduation tests. to test the mastery of skills instead of the schools just passing children through and saying they know when most of our children can't even write in cursive. How can they sign documents? That's the school to prison pipeline. But people's parents, I'm gonna hold us accountable during COVID, Brad and Julius and those out there. If you didn't teach your child, you could not blame the school. I'm gonna say that one more again. Your child learning starts at home. If during 2020, if your child didn't learn anything, guess what? It was our fault because guess what? Those children were home. They weren't in the school. And if you didn't have the proper resources, guess what? There was no computer, so people didn't have Wi-Fi. So guess what? We were responsible for our children's learning. So when you talk about the school to prison pipeline, we need to have an honest conversation. And not only that, as it relates to justice involved and justice impact individuals, we do need to come to the table. We need to put them on notice, Julius, to say, we've been there. If you don't want to learn and get an education, they got a place for you. If you don't want to listen to your parents that's giving you proper instruction, they got a place for you. You're going to listen to them COs in the chain gang.
That's right.
Or get your head bust open. You know, they'll give you time like I want to give you a glass of water. Them folks will hide you. So we need to let them know that and put them on notice. The best thing you can do is get your education. The opportunities are out here for you to do. Yeah. And you need to take every opportunity, and we need to be held accountable to let them know that, okay, if you don't, this is what you're facing. And give them the reality of what they're facing. Then you got to wait till you're 40 and 50 years old to catch up again in life.
I want to interrupt right there, Fred, because I want Brad to speak to this. And Tisha is trying to get in. Tisha, so we'll. I think I sent you the link so that you can pull it up. We're on Facebook, All Things Relevant Media, Ink to Ink. Hit that share button. But I want you to speak to this issue, Brad, because you said it. You say, who better to speak to young people than those that are relevant and those that are relatable? Relevant and relatable meaning who have the shared experiences. But so often, those are the very ones that are excluded from the table. How do we speak to the community about including returning citizens to the table? Now, don't get me wrong. I understand you must have credible messengers. Credible messengers are those returning citizens who have come home and now are positive and productive. But how do we speak to a community to get them at the table?
I think that's a great question. And I think more than anything, what we need to start stressing to our family members, our neighbors, our coworkers, and people we see every day is that everybody can tell you something good for you. Whether it's a wino, whether it's a crackhead, whether it's somebody who got 2 days left to live, whether it's somebody who been on this earth for 50 some years. We can learn from everybody. I think we need to stop being so judgmental and stop saying, okay, well, this person can't tell me nothing because of what he did or she did back in the days. I think that's the wrong answer. My mama, and the more you get to know me, all y'all get to know me, y'all gonna hear me talk about my mom a lot. I love that woman to death. She gone. It's been 10 years since she left. But my mama used to always tell me, she said, boy, you don't listen to nobody who can't tell you where they ain't never been. She said, your mama, she said, I can tell you how it feel to get drunk. I can tell you how it feel to take a drink. She said, when somebody who ain't never took a drink in their life, when somebody who ain't never got high in their life tell you don't do drugs or don't do alcohol or don't do this, how they know? And I get it. I get it. You don't have to eat no whole cow to know that you eating beef. You can take one bite and you know it's beef. But our youth, they different from that. They cut from a different cloth. They not gonna believe it just because Brad say it. They got to hear it from the horse's mouth. They got to hear that, or they got to see that from somebody that in their hearts and mind is credible. And a lot of things we as adults don't do is we don't give those kids the benefit of the doubt. Those kids are smart. They know. They know when you up there just talking to BS them. They know when you up there saying stuff and you don't know what you're talking about. But I think our society, I think our community needs to be open, and I think we need to welcome everybody in. Everybody need to sit at the table. And as a matter of fact, Mr. Campbell, I'm gonna go ahead and say this: we so quick to forgive everybody for doing us wrong for 475 years. Why I can't forgive and forget my brother who made a slip up on made a mistake and bring him in the table and say, "All right, be quiet and listen to him." Why I can't do that for him? Why
Thank
can't
you.
you see the lady who the police officer who shot and killed a man in the wrong apartment?
Yeah.
You see that whole family embracing her, they loving her, they forgiving her. So why we can't do the same thing to our own people?
Mhm.
That's true. That's true. So, and I like the fact that you can say
I'm an
that
advocate
because
for that. We
we
all we
don't
got, and
we
we
are
got to
not
do that. We got to stop being so judgmental, and we got to stop picking and choosing who we support.
right.
We
Good. So let me ask this.
we
Hold on one
all
second.
did stuff,
Let me ask this. Can y'all hear me clear?
but I do believe we need to open up the conversation.
All right. Let me make sure my audio is correct. Fred, you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Brad, you hear me? Is this audio? Hold up one second. Brad, can you hear me? Say something.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Test test.
Yes, there you go. I hear you.
Okay.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. For a moment, your audio wasn't going in and out, and I want to make sure, Dara, please check to make sure that the Facebook link is still going because someone just shot me a link saying that Facebook went out, but YouTube is still going on. So I just wanted to make sure that both you gentlemen heard you can hear me clear. Fred, uh, help us to know what is going on as it relates to um, education. We know that education is necessary for us to be able to sell ourselves, but also I want you to tell me about education, employment, and housing as it relates to returning citizens.
Well, as it relates to education, like I said, a lot of the technical institutes and some of our universities, you can go and get an education. You can get a higher educational degree as a returning citizen. You can still get FAFSA or go through the programs necessary. Like Savannah Tech has that program. Goodwill has some scholarship. Goodwill has some scholarship money to help with a 2-year degree. You have WorkSource Georgia, who has some they operate off the WIOA grant, who will they will put you through a technical degree up to a 4-year degree. So there's options for education. Employment, as I spoke of before, there are some employment agencies. Of course, most of your fast food restaurants will hire returning citizens. Um, any of the warehouses, most of the warehouses, and we're creating partnerships right now. We just learned about CZM today, which is going to deal with the welding proportion um, um, of those who have welding degrees, and a lot of the staffing agencies are hiring as it relates to employment for justice impact. So I don't want justice involved or justice impacted people or returning citizens to think that there's no hope in the form of employment. Um, the city of Savannah, the state of Georgia has the Ban the Box initiative. So a lot of state jobs you could get to the table and hopefully get employed after the background check. At least you can get to the table first. So there's a lot of different employment opportunities. OAA has those resources as well. I could be reached and provide resources. for employment. So there's a lot of employment opportunities. And the last one is housing. Housing, we're still trying to move the needle. There's a lot of private providers, Julius and Brad, and those of you out there who will rent to you without a background check. And there's some apartment complexes like Live Oak Forest. They're not the best, but they're a stepping stone. And I will always encourage Julius also too that for people to begin to think about home ownership.
Yes.
Right? Because sometimes people think that's far out of reach. I was able to utilize the Dream Maker program. The Dream Maker program is through the city, right? They don't do a background check. If you could once you get a good paying job with a livable wage and get your credit up, you could work with the Consumer Credit Counseling Center, begin to develop. You could get. I just talked to somebody today. They said now a lot of the banks are giving loans out with a 580 credit score.
Wow.
You have
that's true. That's true.
Programs like NACA, NACA, and Rural Development, which is USDA, that will help you get your credit to where you need to be, and also will work with you to get a loan to secure a home. Let's begin to own homes, and not just want to rent from individuals. So I will impress against you, and guess what? I'm talking about everything through a lived experience. I'm sitting right now here in my second home. This is my second home that I acquired through the Dream Maker program. So just saying something that I heard, I'm telling you what I know. And it's available. You work hard, you get out here and work, you get to the right net worth, it gives your net worth. Those who you bother with can determine sometime your outcome. We perish as a people for lack of knowledge. That's why platforms like this are important, Julius, and I want to thank you again, because platforms like this help us to be able to disseminate that knowledge.
That's right. That's right.
There is hope for those that are justice impacted. You don't have to go back into it. You could come out here and live a successful life without risk. If I could do it, and the Creator can, and I got to give all praises to God. If God can bless me to do it, He's no respect of person. He'll bless you to do the same thing.
That's right. Oh man, awesome. And so now I want you to speak now, Brad, to that parent or those parents who are looking for hope as it relates to their young people. I saw Lynn. I saw you. Lynn had to switch to YouTube. I don't know what was going on with our Facebook link, but YouTube is up and people are listening to us on YouTube. And I apologize, gentlemen. What we may do is we can tape this and then put it on YouTube for those who are not able to see it, or we'll come back and redo this thing again because information is important. But you tell us, Brad, let us know what hope do our parents have for young people. There are resources like yours that will be there for those that are in need.
I have, since I've been here in Savannah, one thing I can say just from the people. Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right. Yes. I was to, and in my small circle, I can tell you that there are several different organizations and different people that's wanting and willing to help. And just like Mr. Green said, knowledge is everything. It's so much stuff that we don't know that we need to know. And again, Mr. Campbell, I appreciate this platform because this is how we get that knowledge out. This is how we disseminate that. I spoke with somebody recently the other day, and I didn't even notice, Mr. Green, and I'm pretty sure you and Mr. Campbell can talk about this more, but we were doing a voters drive initiative, and they were telling us this because this young man said, well, I can't vote because I'm a convicted felon. He said, and then one of the young ladies said, in the state of Georgia, once you get off papers, once you pay all your restitution, you can submit vote. Your paperwork and you can vote. I am 46 years old, and that blew my mind, and I didn't know that.
Yep, you can vote.
See, that's what I'm saying. The company, you are the company you keep. So you need to make sure you associate yourself with people who know what's going on. I had never heard that. I didn't know that. And now when we go out to do our vote, that's what we're saying that, well, even though you're convicted, are you still on papers? Did you pay your restitution? Well, okay, let's go ahead. Let's submit this paperwork so you can get the right to vote. But it is, Mr. Campbell, it's about us saying, okay, you know what? We are a community. We're not just taking information and keeping it to ourselves. I mean, what's the point? All of us can benefit from this. Like I think Mr. Green said, it's enough information and it's enough knowledge for all of us to gain from that and be good from that. So I would say to parents, you know, sometimes put your pride aside because there are people willing to help and people willing to do stuff. We just don't always know. And I will speak for myself. Me personally, I don't like to step on a lot of toes, but I will intervene. If I see something going on or if I know somebody can benefit from some knowledge I know, oh, I'm gonna tell them. I'm gonna be humble about how I tell them. But I'm definitely going to tell them because I feel like that's my duty. That's my job. If I know something and I see somebody going through something, why not share it? But some people, they want to sit back and they want people to come to them. They want to feel that empowerment. That empowerment comes from when you see that person doing better than you thought or better than you could set them up for. That's where the empowerment comes from. It's so not about us. I tell people all the time, it's not about our ego. People always talk about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. But let me blow your mind. Who talks about the man who made sure the oil was changed in the cars to get them to deliver them speech? Is he not just as important?
Truth.
Sometimes we have to change the oil for the cars and let them other people go up there and make the speeches. And I'm all for that.
Wow. I love that. I love that. I love that. I want to get ready to turn this thing to the end. We're going to get ready to draw to a close, but I want to give both of you an opportunity to just share from your heart whatever you want to say as it relates to what you're doing, your passion, how you can be a help, or we'll put your information on our ticker. Daria is listening, but right now I'm going to let you go first. Fred, what do you want to say? What message of encouragement do you want to leave?
I just want to let those who might be listening who have family members that's incarcerated, there is hope. There's programs out here that are working to help individuals we are classified as justice involved, justice impacted individuals, because anybody could be justice impacted, justice system impacted. Um, there's There's different programs. There are support groups out here now, and the needle is really moving toward a restorative justice model in the city of Savannah. And we need to hold our elected officials accountable. Those that sit on city council, those in government, we need to make sure we get out and vote. Because it's your local elections that determine your state and your national elections.
That's right.
So exercise your right. It's a right. People lived, died, and bled for us to have that right. And don't say voting doesn't matter, because it do. Anytime a group of people trying to keep something away from you, that means it has a benefit. So, like Mr. Brad said, surround yourself around successful people. Success breeds success. If you around a group of people, they know the same thing that you know, then it's time for you to get around another group of people. It's not that you think you're better than them, but they have nothing else to offer you. Then you glean knowledge and give it back to them. Those of you that are on the Facebook Live or the YouTube, whatever we on, and you know that you are elected officials, you have power in your hands, you need to reach out to us. You need to make sure that you support these organizations that you're seeing on Facebook and YouTube, and pull people to the table so that we can help to affect and facilitate changes within our community.
That's right.
Don't give up on young people. The young people want to learn. We just need to connect them with the right people, and don't give up on those that are getting out of incarceration, because they add value to our society, add value to our community. Thank you.
All right. And what about you, Brad? What do you want to say? What word of encouragement? The platform is yours. Share. What do you want to say? Make sure you. Can you hear me, Brad? I don't know what's going on.
I want to say that we all can learn from. I am not from Savannah, but I love Savannah like I was born and raised here. And one thing I will say, I can't speak for everybody else, but can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Test, test. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Whatever your thing is, whatever your piece of the pie is, whatever slice you have, do that and share that. Whatever good thing that you have going on and you can do that, share that with the world, because I guarantee you it'll make somebody better. And I will say this: tomorrow morning from 8 to 12, if you need to go out and do some shopping without the kids at the African American Health Information and Resource Center, we got a play date from 8 to 12 for the kids. It costs nothing. Bring them by. All we need to do is fill out a disclaimer. We're going to give them some breakfast. We're going to give them some lunch. You can go do some shopping, or you can go home and go to sleep if you want to, or you can catch a movie, whatever. But just, we're giving the parents a break in the morning. So just come by, drop the kids off, fill out a disclaimer. We're going to feed them, and it costs nothing. It's absolutely free.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. My wife says you cannot soar with eagles if you're only hanging with chickens. And I think that she just said that as it relates to what you guys learn, increase, and grow. Thank you, guys. I apologize again for the technical difficulty for those who couldn't hear us on Facebook, but we will make sure we get this to you. And if we have to, we'll bring these guys back so that they can share their passion with us again. As I always love to say, we may have started out wrong, but we can all finish strong. And that's what we're doing right now. Returning citizens, justice impacted youth, we are finishing strong. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you.
You can do it. Have a good holiday. If you can believe it, you can achieve.
Have a good one. That's right. That's right.